Arsenal have reached a point now where defending feels second nature. Teams play against them and leave having created next to nothing. This is a side that knows exactly how it wants to defend, and it hits the same standard almost every minute of every game. And it isn't one specific approach to their defending either. This Arsenal side can execute all defensive styles to an extremely high level. They press high, sit in a compact mid block, and can drop deep to defend the edge of their box whenever the game demands it. The shape may change, but the principles are always there to be seen. Small distances, instant pressure, and a structure that constantly moves as one. Now, we've seen elite defensive sides in the Premier League before, no doubt about that, but what makes this Arsenal team so different is their range. You don't usually see a side press this well high up, whilst operating in a mid-block this cleanly, and are able to defend deep with as much control as Arsenal, all within the same game, week in, week out. In this video, we'll go over what makes Mikel Arteta's Arsenal so difficult to break down, and how exactly do they go about doing it. Before we talk about Arsenal specifically, it's important to understand the core concepts of team defending in football. These ideas can essentially be split into two, zonal and man marking, and they've existed in the game for decades. Zonal marking is when defenders protect spaces rather than individual players. Everyone holds their position, shifts together, and deal with whoever enters their zone. The defensive structure is influenced based on where the ball is or an opposition player. Man marking, on the other hand, is when each player locks into a specific opponent and follows them tightly, matching their movement while trying to nullify their influence on the game. Arteta hasn't created a brand new defensive scheme. These concepts have been implemented by coaches for a very long time. But what makes his side special is how well they execute these ideas and their ability to flow between different defensive structures throughout the game. Arsenal regularly set up in a 4-4-2 shape off the ball, and the first thing you notice is how compact they are. They don't allow teams to play inside their block. What makes this shape so difficult to play through is the commitment and understanding across the whole unit. Every player knows where to be, and the timing of their movement is impeccable. You see it here. Gyökeres jumps to press the centre back, and Arsenal's shape immediately funnels the ball wide. There's no space to play inside for the opposition. At the same time, watch how Calafiori is already stepping onto the winger, who has his back to goal. The key here is the timing. Calafiori starts moving before the ball even goes towards his side, and the rest of the team shifts with him. The structure stays intact whilst on the move, and Arsenal are able to dictate where the ball ends up. The aim for Arsenal in this 4-4-2 block is to give the opposition no joy in between the lines and force turnovers out wide by setting traps. Now, the main challenge with being so compact is you have to live with the spaces out wide and be ready to deal with switches. We see it here against Man United. Arsenal are in a very compact shape, leaving the flanks vacant, which United are able to play into. But notice who tracks the runner. It's not the fullback, it's Martinelli. See, Arsenal want this. They want the ball going wide, they want the winger receiving it, and to play a low quality cross with his weak foot. The way Arsenal defended this game was really interesting. It was the game where Arsenal faced the most switches in the league so far this season, as well as the second most crosses in the game. There wasn't a real urgency to close down the angle for a cross. Now, a big reason for this is there wasn't any aerial threat on the pitch for Man United for large parts of the game. And it played right into Arsenal's hand, who used it to their advantage. In this game against City, Arsenal were less reluctant to allow passes to be played out wide with speed. We see the same 4-4-2 shape, but Arsenal were less compact and more stretched. Now, this is to prevent switch passes. We saw how well Arsenal did it to nullify City's crossing threat to only 4 this game, which is the second lowest amount City attempted in all competitions this season. As the ball is played wide, notice how Calafiori doesn't run at a straight line to press the player on the ball. He curves his run to prevent the player from going down the line, which results in a City player having no option but to pass back. This is what makes Arsenal elite off the ball. They dictate how the opposition progress play, influencing where the ball goes, and they constantly force teams into their own traps. Mikel Arteta's Arsenal are operating at a genuinely historic defensive level this season. They've conceded just 5 goals in 11 league games, the fewest in Europe's top 5 leagues. They've also faced the fewest shots. No one else in the Premier League comes close. And what makes these numbers even more impressive is that Arsenal defend with the highest line in the league at 44.3 metres. Normally, the higher your line, the more you risk giving up chances. But Arsenal have flipped that logic completely. They keep teams at arm's length, consistently reducing opponents to almost nothing. It's not just about sitting in a 4-4-2 and defending a zone. With this Arsenal side, the responsibility is shared across every single player. Here, Arsenal start in the usual 4-4-2 shape, but with Atleti pushing 2 strikers up, Lewis Skelly tucks inside from left back to track one of them. At the same time, the opposition fullback is extremely high and wide on the far side. Rather than leaving that as a free out ball, Martinelli drops into the back line and turns it into a back five. From there, you see how aggressive Arsenal are the moment there's any hesitation on the ball. Eze jumps to close down the centre-back, and Saka's already reading the next play. He then steps in to intercept the pass. If Saka cuts across the defender here, he either wins a foul or is able to get by the opponent and slide Gyökeres in, who's completely free and through on goal. The main thing to highlight here is the connection from back to front. Forwards willing to drop 30-40 yards to stop danger is selfless and a big part as to why this team is so hard to play through. This play here showcases perfectly the exceptional understanding and timing of all the players. They start off in their usual shape that we've seen so far, but as soon as Eze presses the centre-back, Arsenal switch from zonal to a man-to-man press. You see Merino start next to Xhaka, but when the ball is played to the opposite centre-back, he presses onto that player, and Rice steps in to get close to Xhaka. Notice how Rice is signalling to his teammate that his initial position is vacant. There's a 2v1 on Calafiori's side. Trossard looks over his shoulder, but doesn't drop back to cover Rice. Instead, he holds his shape and cuts off any potential passing lane. So who deals with the free man here? It's Gabriel from centre-back who jumps out to close the player down. With all this happening, Merino is closing onto the player on the ball. The options to play the ball here is either to the fullback, which Arsenal will happily accept, or a ball over the top. But that pass over the top has to be timed perfectly whilst under pressure, and that's quite difficult to pull off. The player attempts the ball over the top, Merino gets a slight touch on it, and redirects the flight of the pass, to which Calafiori is able to recover. This is what separates Arsenal from most teams: the communication, the instant role changes, and the way every player stays connected to each play. This side consistently generate turnovers by a chain of decision made in perfect sync. Players who face Arsenal have noticed just how well drilled they are off the ball. After playing against him earlier this season, Fulham player Sander Berger said to the press, "It's like someone is remote controlling them from row 50 when they're defending in their 4-4-2. Every single player covers the right spaces. It's impossible to create overloads." And when you watch them, it's obvious to see why he said that. The structure is so coordinated that even when teams try to manipulate the shape, Arsenal are able to adjust instantly. As we mentioned, the communication and timing of when to hold shape or jump to press has to be on point. The role of the centre-backs is really demanding, especially when Arsenal look to press man-to-man. Here, we see the opposition goalkeeper receive the ball, Arsenal looking to press man-to-man. There's a 2v1 on the right side, which the keeper can easily play into. Notice Saliba here, signalling to the midfielder to hold his shape. At the same time, he steps out himself to mark the free man, cutting off the potential pass option. The moment he sees play shift to the opposite side, he runs back to position as the potential danger has shifted, helping his partner deal with the ball that's played over the top. You really see the character of this Arsenal side in moments like this, especially their communication and how quickly they look after each other defensively. As Atleti set out for a goal kick, Arsenal matched their structure with 4 players at the back. Sorloth is positioned in the centre circle, ready to contest the long ball. Saliba is the closest defender to him at first. But watch Gabriel. He immediately recognises the matchup and signals to switch. Gabriel takes responsibility for Sorloth, knowing he's a stronger aerial defender and the one more likely to win that duel. He doesn't leave Saliba isolated in a disadvantageous situation, and when the ball arrives, Gabriel's able to win it. It's a small moment, but it shows exactly how this Arsenal team operate. Constantly communicating, aware of matchups, and players adjusting for each other without hesitation. In a press conference, Arteta once said he wants his side to be the kings of everything, and that is something you see in their game, from dominating set pieces defensively and offensively, throw-ins. They're just as good operating in a high press as they are in a mid-block. With the opposition keeper on the ball, Arsenal set up with their defensive line on the halfway line. Each player is tightly marking someone except for Timber. He holds his position till the keeper passes out wide. This is exactly what he wants, so he can apply pressure on the fullback's first touch. The ability to cover ground here and recover the ball is very difficult, but it's something that Timber is capable of doing often. Another special trait of this side is the running power across the pitch. It allows players to rotate and cover for each other seamlessly. Here, Arsenal reset into their shape after taking a corner, and the positions are completely shuffled. Timber is on the opposite flank, so Rice fills in at right back. Gyökeres presses the keeper and keep an eye on Rice. He instantly jumps to close the fullback, exactly how Timber would in that role. The keeper panics and kicks the ball straight out of play. The focus here isn't the turnover, it's how naturally Rice executes that trigger, as if he'd been playing right back all game. Every player knows the system inside out, which is why they can interchange without breaking structure. Arsenal hardly give teams a sniff. Opponents barely get into their defensive third, let alone their penalty area. In the league, no one comes close to them for opponent touches in their defensive third. Arsenal have allowed just 1,030 touches, and the next best sit all the way at 1,224. It's the same story inside the box. Arsenal have allowed only 155 touches in their penalty area this season, with the next best team allowing 194 touches. These numbers are normal. They show a team that's able to control territory, squeeze space, and keep opponents as far away from goal as possible. To control territory the way Arsenal do, you need midfielders who can close space quickly and press with conviction. And here's an example of exactly that. Arsenal press high with the front line. Saka angled his run to shut off the wide option, forcing the centre back inside. The pass goes into midfield and Zubimendi is already on the move, stepping in to challenge the midfielder who's receiving the ball. He intercepts cleanly without fouling, and suddenly Arsenal have a 5-on-4 straight at goal. Saka squares it, Martinelli finishes, but the run is just a fraction offside. Even though it doesn't count, this is textbook Arsenal. Force the ball inside, collapse the space immediately, and transition with numbers. A similar principle applies here. Arsenal press with the front three, and as the keeper looks to play out, it seems like there's a free option in midfield. Now watch Rice. He checks his shoulder early, reads the situation instantly, and chooses to leave that player. Instead, he charges forwards to press the free man in midfield, even before the keeper makes contact with the ball. The midfielder receives it with Rice already on top of him. There's nowhere for him to go. No time to turn, no safe pass available. Rice wins the ball cleanly and Arsenal are able to score from the turnover. Teams hate passing into the centre of the pitch against Arsenal because this is what happens. Their midfielders have the legs, technique and timing to punish any loose touch or indecisiveness. Even when Arsenal attack, they still keep in mind not being counted defensively. The way they do this is by having a solid structure from the players who aren't directly involved in attack, holding their shape to deny counter-attacking situations. Here's a common shape we see from Arsenal, usually a 3-2 or a 3-1, staying back to stop the opposition from counter-attacking while sustaining pressure close to the opponent's goal. But at times, Arsenal can be a bit too cautious when attacking. Here, Noni progresses the ball brilliantly and gets into a dangerous position. Yet Arsenal have 6 players positioned deep to deal with just 3 City attackers. It's an overly safe setup. If Calafiori had anticipated the cutback earlier and attacked the space, Arsenal could have created a far more dangerous situation here. There wasn't really a need to keep many players back. And whilst this conservative approach is a big reason why they're so hard to play against, it can sometimes tilt the risk to reward balance a little too far towards the defensive side, especially against elite teams. Arsenal have built a defensive structure that's as complete as anything we've seen in the modern Premier League era in my opinion. They press, recover and control every phase without breaking shape. From the front to back line, every single player understands their role to a T. It's a team that dictates how the opponent is able to attack at will. Now, I want to ask a question. Is this level of defensive solidity enough to finally push Arsenal over the line and collect some silverware? Hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts. And until next time, peace.